Shalom, shalom. First and foremost, I want to give all praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Rakah HaKodash. Double honors to the elders and bishops of Great Millstone who teach and will well. Salutation to the beloved prophets and teachers who continue to exhort the sheep in these last days. And a mighty shalom to all the hopeful listeners listening in. The title of this epistle is going to be entitled, You Will Own Nothing and Be Happy. That's right. You will own nothing and be happy. The proper understanding of what was said in that statement was, don't become so attached to the materialistic things in this life, and don't be so consumed with this current matrix, how everything is operating, for they will soon come to perish and be as it were not. So in Micah 2:10, it reads, Arise ye and depart, for this is not your rest. Because it is polluted, it shall destroy you, even with a sore destruction. This current age and how defiled that it has become over a period of generations has weakened in its values and its moral integrity. And as we approach the onset of the judgments being poured out and vanquishing this current matrix and ushering the kingdom to come, our heart and our mind, our heart meaning our mind, should be focused on looking forward towards a new way of thinking and living, and in which we will be operating within the spirit of Hamashiach, Yahweh Shai, our Messiah. So Micah 2:10, Arise ye and depart, for this is not your rest. Because it is polluted, it shall destroy you, even with a sore destruction. So you will own nothing and be happy, and do not be complacent and attached to anything, because in the midst of wars, a lot of things can transpire. Displacement of family members, losing loved ones, the things that you own and reside in can also perish. Circumstances happen in war, so be very mindful of that. Let's go to 1 Timothy. 1 Timothy chapter 6. 1 Timothy chapter 6 and verse 7. It reads, For we brought nothing into this world, and it is certain we can carry nothing out. And having food and raiment, let us be therewith content. But they that will be rich fall into temptation and snare, and into many foolish and hurtful lusts, and drown men in destruction and perdition. So it is certain that we brought nothing into this world, and we are certainly not leaving anything, taking anything with us when we go back into the dust, back into the grave, right? So many people have become so attached to the life that they have built for themselves that they cannot see through the veil of the things that are transpiring right in front of them. They stay on this continual loop and cycle of trying to get things done, trying to get things paid, just continuously wanting to grow and stay within the realm of the matrix that they have built for themselves. But we're commanded that be watchful and to be circumspect in all things, to stay glued to the prophecies and the things to be to unfold, so we're not caught off guard. Like it says in Luke, don't let your hearts be overcharged with surfeiting, but the cares of this life, right? Because it was already proclaimed that you will own nothing and be happy. And spiritually speaking, those that are locked in, we agree with that. There's, like we just read in Micah 2:10, depart, for this is not your rest, right? We are not in our natural land. We are in the land of our enemies. So-called Hebrew Israelites that are pertain to the curses found in Deuteronomy chapter 28. This is for you. So we are in the land of our captivity, and yeah, I'm gonna grab it. Let's go to Deuteronomy real quick. I'll grab it just so we can add that verse in. It wasn't in the list, but we'll grab it anyway. I have to first grab yeah, we're gonna go to Deuteronomy real quick, grab a verse to support Micah 2 and 10, Deuteronomy 12 and 9. Deuteronomy 12 and 9. Deuteronomy 12 and 9 says, for ye are not as yet come to the rest and to the inheritance which Yahweh your power giveth you. Right. So those that understand prophecy, we're waiting on situations to transpire prophetically, and for the hopeful remnant to be brought back into the land of their rest, to detach from this current society and the ways of living, and be spiritually minded in the things to come. So we will own nothing here, and we will be happy for it. Those that look to sustain their life and hold on to their current way of living is going to be ensnared with the old world that's being purged out. Nextly, we'll go into the book of Ecclesiasticus, Sirach. Again, you will own nothing and be happy. That's a good thing. That's a good thing. That's a good thing. We don't want anything they have to offer. Sirach 29. Excuse me. Sirach 29 and verse 21. The chief thing for life is water and bread and clothing and a house to cover shame. I'll read that again. Ecclesiasticus, also known as the book of Sirach, chapter 29 and verse 21. It reads, the chief thing for life is water and bread and clothing and a house to cover shame. Right? On the surface level, yes, those things are needful to take care of the flesh. And the underlying spiritual aspect of what's being said here, the chief thing for life is water. Without that living water from the scriptures to provide us nourishment unto our spirit, we will not survive. We need that living water, right? We need the word to sustain our spirit and refresh us and wash us from sin and iniquity. That bread, the chief thing in life is water and bread. That bread is that manna, Hamashiach Yahweh. That bread, Matthew 4 and 4, right? Man shall not live by bread alone, but by every word that proceedeth out of the mouth of the Most High Yahweh. That bread is what we need to sustain us and continuously grow in wisdom. Again, the chief thing for life is water, bread, and clothing. We need to be clothed in the proper garments of righteousness, right? We cannot put on those raggedy old cloths, the old man, the old woman, that sackcloth of mourning and ashes, as we are in a state of repentance, searching out diligently the things that are displeasing unto our Father, so we can purge out the leaven, the iniquities in us, whatever. So we want to put on righteous garments. And lastly, the chief thing for life is water and bread and clothing and a house to cover shame. Entering into the Lord's house, being properly clothed, being fed spiritually, drinking that everlasting water. This is the house that we want to cover our shame, right? For wisdom and knowledge shall be the stability of thy time. Let's go to the book of Philippians. the book of Philippians. Remember, you will own nothing here and you will be happy. That's a true statement. Those that may find themselves upset about not wanting to own things here, a home, a land, a vehicle, whatever, a business, don't fret. The Most High Yahweh says, I have a plan for you to give you a future. His word says that. Trust in what he has to say. Trust not in your own understanding. Philippians chapter 4. Philippians chapter 4 and 11. Not that I speak in respect. Oh, should I grab the next one? Yeah, let's jump up real quick. Philippians chapter 4, verses 10 and 11. It says, But I rejoiced in Yahweh greatly, and now at the last your care of me hath flourished again. Within ye were also careful, but ye lacked opportunity. Not that I speak in respect of want, for I have learned in whatsoever state I am, wherewith to be content. Right. So no matter what we have and what we don't have, we find ourselves to be content with it, because he will provide the necessary things that we need in our lives incrementally according to our very need. He says, I know what you have need of even before you even ask me. He knows the very hairs on your head. He knows all things because he has written your life from beginning to end. And as long as you continue to abide within the cover of the Almighty by taking heed unto his word and expressing due diligence in good works, in praise and receiving and in charity and all things, he will come through, and you will not have to worry about lack of anything, but be content therewith and stay in constant communication with him, because that's the relationship that you need. We all need continually, because he's that lifeline, our support, right? Philippians 3 and 14. I looked at it. I like it. It says, I press towards the mark of the prize of the high calling of the Most High in Hamashiach Yahushai. Let us therefore, as many as be perfect, be thus minded, and in anything be ye otherwise minded. Yahweh shall reveal even this unto us. So if we find ourselves in the company of those that have the like-minded, that's a blessing. That's more of a blessing than to have ownership of material and carnal things. Those that can share our burdens and help us to grow in understanding, that is more profitable unto us than having the material things in this world, right? Because you can have a big mansion, you can have the fanciest car outside, a swimming pool in the back, all a lavish garden with all kind of flowers growing, and you can have money up to the ceiling in your bank account. You can be all decked out with bling bling and all this other stuff, but have nobody in your life that supports you, loves you, cares for you, or anything. And that is an empty life. I think Luther Vandross made a song, a house is not a home. Forgot the words, but I can hear it in my head. A house is not a home. You by my side. I'm gonna listen to it after this, but so right, you will own nothing and be happy. Where we at? Let's go to Ecclesiasticus, also known as the Book of Sirach, chapter 2 and verse 4. Ecclesiasticus chapter 2 and verse 4. You will own nothing and be happy. Ecclesiasticus chapter 2 and verse 4. It says, whatsoever is brought upon thee, take cheerfully, and be patient when thou art changed to a low estate. Life's ebb and flows. I mean, if anybody goes through life nice and smooth, no hiccups, what have you gleaned from life and your experiences to be able to pass on and be an an accommodation unto others as far as forwarding their wisdom and understanding before you leave this earth. What can you say about life other than whatever field you have drowned yourself in from point A to point B? Right? So whatever is brought upon you, take cheerfully and be patient when thou art changed to a lower state. You know, sometimes you're up, sometimes you're down, sometimes you have, sometimes you don't have, but in all things we are staying consistent, locked into our power, thanking him continuously, because without that breath of life in you, you truly don't have nothing. Without your health, you don't have nothing. So you will own nothing and be happy materialistically, you know, because this wisdom, knowledge, and understanding, no one can take that from you. That should be your chief joy. That should be something that sparks you up instantly. For those you may hear groan and moan around you, oh, we're losing this, we can't afford this. You know, you're blessed if you don't have that stress and anxiety to care for the materialistic things that you put and placed in your life for you to continue to have in your life. You know, some people put too much in their life, too much responsibility, without the forethought of how to take care of it before they acquire it. You hear a lot of children, I want a kitten, I want a puppy. You get one, they don't take care of it, they don't feed it. You got to do it now. They want chickens, they want a horse, they want all these other things, but then they don't have the responsibility to take care of it. Same thing with our Father. He will give us the things that are needful for us, and if we are properly taking care of the things that he puts in our hands, he's going to give us more. He says, if you love me, feed my sheep. Those that do not feed his sheep, he's going to remove them entirely, because you're unprofitable. You're all about being selfish instead of being selfless. You are a hired servant, right? You will only work for pay, but that's not what he requires. He requires, you know, people to stay steadfast in this walk and continuously grow and be patient when you are brought to a lower state, because then he will provide all your necessary things. Let's go into 1 Corinthians. 1 Corinthians. Oh. 1 Corinthians chapter 7 and verse 31. Right? And they that use this world as not abusing it, for the fashion of this world passeth away. Should I jump up? And they that weep as though they... So, in other words, you can use the things in this life. You can have a vehicle. You can have a home. You can have all these things. But understand that you're just using these things as tools. Just like money. You know, you put money in certain people's hands and their mind starts going crazy. I have freedom now to go and capture a treasure, whatever my heart desires. And then you put that same money in someone else's hands and they view it as nothing but a tool. It's set aside just like a pen, just like a hammer. That's how you look at the finances. That's how you look at currency. That's not having a lust of money. That's just using it. You see how people glorify money, because what the idea of that deity does is somehow entrap the spirit to give them a sense of freedom to go and acquire, to fulfill lust. But those of you that look at currency as just another tool for you to go and make repairs, to go and help someone, to go and, you know, that's using the world but not abusing it, is what is being said here in 1 Corinthians chapter 7 and verse 31. This is the fashion of someone who is not yoked with this current world and its system. You know, the fashion of this world fadeth away. And I think we're grabbing that next. So yes, use the world, but don't abuse the world. Don't get so super excited if you lose something or something breaks down and you got to run to go and repair it and fix it. That's a different heart posture. Second Esdras chapter 14. Second Esdras chapter 14 verse 15, and it reads, no, let's jump up. Second Esdras chapter 14, starting at verse 14. It says, let go from thee mortal thoughts, cast away the burdens of man. Put off now the weak nature. That's considered a weak nature when you continue to hold on to mortal thoughts. You know, the things that you need to provide for your flesh. I need to go and acquire this and make ready for that. If this scenario happens, I have to have a backup plan for that. And if all else fails, I have to have this person I can rely on. And that's overwhelming. That's a weak nature. Second Esdras chapter 14 verses 15. And set aside the thoughts that are most heavy unto thee, and haste thee, and to flee from these times. Flee from these times, because as we see the pressures building up in the earth, you are to come away from that. You know, like if you see people over there arguing or fighting and throwing fists and stuff like that, there are some that are attracted and want to engage with it and want to record it and interfere with that. And then there's those that just want to entirely separate themselves, because that's just nothing but a heaping ball of fire. Why would you want to, just like the cares of this life, why would you want to go and be part of it, but separate yourself from it, if that makes sense? Verse 16, for yet greater evils than those which thou hast seen happened shall be done hereafter. Evils are going to continue to increase, right? We're not going to go that way with the scriptures today, but we're going to stay on the topic of not being so concerned and hellbound to the cares and the structures of the material things of this life. You know, you're going to hear a lot of people be frustrated and upset about the lack of loss. You know, they want their things. They want their things. Let's go to Ezekiel. We're going to compound that with Ezekiel 7. Mr. Ezekiel. Ezekiel chapter 7, verses 12 to 14. It says, the time is come, the day draweth near. Let not the buyer rejoice, nor the seller mourn. For wrath is upon all the multitude thereof. As we lock in and we see Abanawa Yahweh pouring out incrementally judgments, prophetically lining up for what's to come, we should be sitting and watching and observing and taking it in according to what the scriptures has said. The time is come, the day draweth near. Let not the buyer rejoice, nor the seller mourn, for wrath is upon all the multitude thereof. This is a disconnection from the economic ties to this world, right? It's going to be a disconnect, like an economic disruption. I'll put it that way. Verse 13, for the seller shall not return to that which is sold, although they were yet alive, for the vision is touching the whole multitude thereof, which shall not return, neither shall any strength himself in the iniquity of his life. Those that continue to function in a way where they just want to build a commodity and build a business and use the world as some kind of way to market themselves, that's considered iniquity, right? Because we are not to be so concerned with chasing the almighty buck and making a name for ourselves, but to be a servant as prescribed through the scriptures and what he has built us to be, a vessel of worship and praise in purity and in righteousness. Second Esdras chapter 16. Second Esdras chapter 16, verse 40 to 45. Remember, you will own nothing and be happy. You know, this might sound baffling to other people, but to some, it makes perfect sense. You will own nothing and be happy. Second Ezra chapter 16, starting at verse 40. O my people, O my people. He's talking about his people. Habanawa Yahweh's people. O my people, hear my word. That means Shammai. To be very attentive, to be very alert, and absorb everything that I'm saying. When he says to hear my word, Shammai, it's not just sit there and listen. It is to record with attention, with fear and trembling, and do exactly as I said. As soon as I release the word, go and take action. O my people, hear my word. Make you ready to the battle. And in those evils, be even as pilgrims upon the earth. A pilgrim is a very nomadic person. A pilgrim is someone that's ready to make change and to be mobile. A pilgrim is not stationary. A pilgrim doesn't occupy in one place. Verse 41. He that selleth, let him be as he that fleeth away, and he that buyeth as one that will lose. We just looked at Ezekiel chapter 7 and 12 and 13, and it corresponds. It is relatable in that very same wording. He that selleth, let he as he that fleeth away, and he that buyeth as one that will lose, right? So there's no more business going on there. 42, he that occupy merchandise as he that, let me read that slow. Second Ezra chapter 16 and 42. He that occupieth merchandise as he that hath no profit by it, and he that buildeth as he that shall not dwell therein. We see people building up houses. You know, he says, as in the times of Noah, they were building, they were planting, they were marrying, they were giving in a marriage. They were doing all these things as if life was going to continue on, and it was going to just somehow last. He says, but Noah and his family made their way into the ark, and he shut the door. Those people that were occupied doing all those things, the flood came and took them away. It wasn't that they were building and planting and marrying and giving in marriage, whatever. They withstood the flood. No, they were washed away because they were too occupied doing those things. He says here, be even as pilgrims upon the earth. So we would not be building and trying to do all these things to sustain life, because we know that in the midst of war, things can change. Things can happen on the fly. And you want to be fortified with the wisdom, knowledge, and understanding rather than having a bunch of stuff around you. That's not going to profit anyone. You could be overtaken at any time from outside forces and procuring the things that you thought were going to be salvation unto you. Your can of beans, your can of corn, your ARs. Hey, heed instructions, right? Matthew 24. Yeah. Oh, I didn't finish that. Sorry. Second Ezra chapter 16, and we'll pick it up at 43. He that soweth as if he should not reap. These are those that want to garden, and we're going to have a famine of food. We're not going to have food. We got to make this row of tomatoes, green bell peppers, eggplants, watermelon over here, honeydew, and we're going to learn how to can a bunch of food. Not saying that learning this stuff is not acceptable, but the very fashion of trying to go about them to establish a way to save yourself, that's what's off the hinge. Right? He says, he that soweth as if he should not reap, so also he that planteth the vineyard as he that shall not gather the grapes. They that marry as they that shall get no children, and they that marry not as the widowers. And therefore they that labor in vain. And therefore they that labor in vain. I heard someone mention recently, isn't that just regarding the wicked? Aren't they going to be cut off from food and resources and so on and so forth? Not necessarily. They're going to have an outlet to procure those things for a very short time. But he says, oh, my people, make you even ready to the battle and be as pilgrims on the earth. Two different instructions, two different paths. They that labor, labor in vain. This is for both parties. Those that receive the instructions and those that do not. They labor in vain. Matthew 24. Matthew 24. Prophetic chapter. Matthew chapter 24. We're almost done. Matthew 24 and starting at verse 6 to 8. It says, and ye shall hear of wars and rumors of wars. Boom. That is identifying a time. You hear people say, oh, we don't know the time or day and blah, 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 blah. But he gives us certain morsels of information to itch us closer to a time to be very watchful of, right? It's poetically embedded for you to receive instructions. But those that do not have the eye salve, they will pass right over it. And ye shall hear of wars and rumors of wars. Yes, we hear this. Oh, they've been talking about that for a year. Yeah, but this one is escalating according to prophecy. See that ye be not troubled, for all these things must come to pass, but the end is not yet. Okay, so that's instructions. You see the wars? Be calm. Be calm. These things must come to pass. But the end is not yet. Okay, got you. For nation shall rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom, and there shall be famines and pestilence and earthquakes in diverse places. So collapse is controlled and slowly taking place throughout the areas that he has destined to have these situations come about. Verse 8. All these are the beginning of sorrows, the very beginning of sorrows. So there's no making haste to be filled with anxiety when you see these things start to happen. Real cool as a fan, because we are relying on his sovereign word, being fed by the word through the spirit and receiving instructions in this very fashion. We're not so concerned with all the things in this life. If we don't have this word, you're out of here. It don't matter what you have around you. If you do not have his instructions, you're going to be ensnared. So when you see wars, do not be alarmed, for these things must come to pass. So now that we have an understanding of the times, right? He gives us an understanding of a time to be watchful, right? This is a time that's looking like it could be a time of war. So let's go into Ecclesiastes chapter 3. And we'll read on down to verse 8. It says, to everything there is a season and a time to every purpose under the heaven. So those of you that say no one knows the time or day and when the Son of Man will come back and so on and so forth. True. But we are looking at the times and hastening the things to come, because now we're prompted what to be watchful for and to have a heart posture and mindset to be very alert. To everything there is a season and a time to every purpose under the heaven, a time to be born and a time to die, a time to plant and a time to pluck up that which is planted. Everyone must listen up, even those happy-go-lucky, love on everybody Christians out there. Listen up. A time to kill and a time to heal, a time to break down and a time to build up, a time to weep and a time to laugh, a time to mourn and a time to dance. Yeah, some of you may have read this before, but you need to rehear it again. A time to cast away stones and a time to gather stones together. A time to embrace. There's a time for embracing, and there's a time to refrain from embracing. Right? It's not always just love, 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 love. It's a time to refrain from that stuff. A time to get and a time to lose, a time to keep and a time to cast away. Don't be so concerned about keeping things. You know, you will own nothing and be happy. 7, a time to rend and a time to sow. There's a time to separate. There's a time to break away from those people who are not living peaceful. There's a time to, depart peacefully. That's it. A time to rend and a time to sow. There's a time to bring back together too. A time to keep silent and a time to speak. A time to love. There's a time for that. And there's a time to hate. Yes, hate is a human emotion. If you try to restrain and not control that emotion, it can overtake you, or it can cause you to have an outburst if you don't properly channel hate and anger the appropriate way, right? It doesn't mean to go in the backyard and start pounding on the dirt. No, hate is a human emotion. Hating those who commit sins continuously and don't change from their way. You might hear someone say, I hate the sin that's in them, but I don't hate the person. What? You can't separate that person's sin that they love so much from themselves. You're yoking yourself with a person that's self-destructive. A time of war and a time of peace. So we are in a time of war. We're not in a time of peace. There's all kind of stuff going on. And I'm not promoting hate. I'm not saying just go and start hating people. Hate. No, that's not what it's saying. There's a time for all these things, and they're all applicable in their season, in their time. You are not to be shamed because you have human emotions. We are not anything outside of a human being. We're just flesh and bone. But we should be operating in the spirit of purity and righteousness. This is a full, comprehensive understanding on how to be perfect. That means to completion, to have a complete understanding, not how the world defines perfect. You can't make no mistakes. You can't. No, we can make slip-ups. We have slip-ups, but we have an opportunity to repent from some sins that are not unto death. There's sins to death, and then there's sins not unto death, right? We talked about that before. Colossians 3 and verse 2, it says, set your affections on things above, not on the things on earth. Set your affection on things above, not on the things on earth. If you sit around and are attached to all the things that are in your life, and you can't see that, you can't see yourself living without your grandpa's car that was an inheritance unto you, or you find yourself being fond of a photo album with all your grandchildren and babies, you are too attached and you are investing too much of yourself into something that could be a snare unto you. You may say, oh, when the time comes, I know how to walk away from it and so on and so forth. Let me tell you, it's better to be ready than to try and establish your readiness in those moments. So you will own nothing and be happy. You will own nothing and be happy. This is a good thing. So until the next time, Shalom.